The Arizona desert doesn't like company. It cooks the impatient, blinds the curious, and buries the careless. But for Luke Palmer, it was home. At 34, Luke wasn't old, but he had old hands. Hands that remembered how to rebuild a carburetor blindfolded or tell the year of a spark plug by touch. After a stint as a Navy tech, mostly engines, sometimes circuits, he turned to what he loved: restoring machines that had long stopped mattering to most people. His garage sat on the edge of nowhere, between a closed Air Force range and a dried-up riverbed. He spent most days elbow-deep in a black '81 Trans Am. The vinyl cracked, the radio stuck between ZZ Top and static. He was restoring it slow, the way a man fixes something for no one but himself. One evening, the radio gave off a strange hum, not a buzz, but a low, pulsing breath. Luke paused, wrench in hand. Then it came, a distant thump, heavy and wrong. The Trans Am shivered. The desert had just been hit by something big. Stepping outside, flashlight in hand, Luke scanned the ridgeline. Then he saw it. A silver streak curved across the sky, too smooth for a meteor, and crashed behind the old water tower. No flames, just a quiet bloom of light and sand. He stared, heartbeat quickening. "Not natural," he muttered. He grabbed a jacket over his faded NASA tee, tossed a power pack in the truck bed, and drove toward the site. What he found didn't make sense. The wreck shimmered strangely, half buried in the sand. It looked like a dream had tried to copy a jet and given up halfway. No markings, no engine, just an open wound of twisted, gleaming metal. Then, movement. A figure slumped near the hull. Humanoid, breathing. A woman. Her skin had a faint silver-blue shimmer. She wore a bodysuit that reflected starlight, and her eyes flickered open as he knelt. "You okay?" he asked. She looked up, dazed. "Temporal divergence. They followed me." Luke didn't catch half of it, but she was hurt and scared. He wrapped her in a blanket from his truck and helped her stand. She pressed something round and glowing into his palm, warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. "What is this?" "Power cell," she said weakly, "but it's failing. We need analog, non-synthetic." Luke blinked. "Analog? You're saying I could fix it?" She met his eyes. "Can you restore analog systems?" He smiled the way only someone who once rebuilt a cassette deck using nail clippers and solder wire could. "Lady," he said, "you just landed in the one place left on Earth where analog still rules." They got back to the garage close to midnight. Luke cleared the bench, moved the Trans Am, and backed the strange ship inside using an old winch system he'd built from snowplow chains and motorcycle parts. Kalari, that was her name, watched him work in silence. Her ship's tech looked advanced, but he saw something underneath. Routing patterns like old radar arrays or pre-digital sensors. "I can fix this," he finally said, "but I'll need parts. And coffee." She blinked. "Coffee? You'll like it." Outside, the desert cooled. Inside, Luke dug into boxes of wires, resistors, and one perfect vacuum tube he'd kept for years, a piece from a 1949 oscilloscope. He fired up the shop fan. ZZ Top still played from the corner. Kalari sat near the Trans Am, watching him with tired curiosity. "This place," she said softly, "it's alive." Luke didn't answer. He just kept working. But deep down, he felt it too. Something was waking up. Morning came quietly, bleeding into the desert like coffee into dry earth. Luke hadn't slept. Grease on his hands, coffee mug in reach, he studied the cracked internals of the alien craft spread across his garage. Kalari stood nearby, steadier now, her shimmering bodysuit dimmer but functional. Her ship, though, still barely alive. Beneath the sleek surface, Its innards looked like crystal veins and melted circuitry. Elegant, but burned out. "Why analog?" Luke asked, tightening a bolt by instinct. Kalari knelt beside the core housing. "Digital systems decay across time. Analog holds shape. Signal persists." Luke blinked. "You're saying old-school tech survives time travel better?" "Yes. It resists entropy. Your kind abandoned it too soon." He smirked. "Well, I'm still clinging to it." She looked around the garage. Cassette decks, tube amps, shelves of junk-turned treasure. "I see." They worked side by side. Luke repurposed an old oscilloscope tube into a signal bridge. She stabilized a scorched node with something that looked grown, not built. "Try it now," he said. She pressed a control panel. The craft vibrated, gently, like a held breath, then settled into a low hum. Lights blinked across the hull. Not many, but enough. Kalari's eyes widened. "You've restored the flow." Luke leaned back, arms crossed. "Told you, analog still rules." She smiled. "It does. With your hands." Later, Kalari sat on the hood of the Trans Am, watching him calibrate a field oscillator using speaker wire and a hacksaw blade. Outside, the sun scorched the empty horizon. She noticed a photo taped to a cabinet. Luke in uniform, next to a Navy helicopter. "You were a warrior." "Tech, fixed what flew. Quit early. Wasn't my fight." She studied his face. "But you still fix things." Luke kept working. "Machines don't lie." Silence lingered. Then a sharp tone echoed from the ship's console. Kalari rushed to it, frowning. "They found me." Luke stood. "They?" "Temporal regulators. I escaped with something they want hidden. If they catch me, they'll erase the event, and anyone who helped." "Ah," Luke said. "One of those days." The sensor display flickered, not in color, but in presence, like time itself had hiccuped. "They'll breach this timeline in under an hour," Kalari said. Luke grabbed a milk crate full of scrap. "Then we patch this bird fast." Together, they rebuilt the stabilizer array using a vacuum tube, coil wiring, and the Trans Am's ignition harness. Kalari adjusted the temporal relay crystal. Luke rigged the last failsafe using a rheostat from an old jukebox. "You're calm?" she said. He glanced at her. "Desert teaches you patience. Navy teaches you speed. Good combination." 30 minutes later, the ship pulsed with low light. Not stable, but alive. Luke exhaled. "She'll jump. Just don't ask me where." Kalari stepped forward. "You shouldn't come. If they catch us, they'll wipe me out," he said flatly. "You have a life here." Luke looked around. The dust, the tools, the unfinished car. He looked back at her. "Maybe it's time for a new ride." She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "Then hold tight. This won't be gentle." Outside, the desert cracked open with faint distortion. Shapes shimmered on the horizon, half-formed, humming with impossible energy. Luke grabbed the manual override lever. "Let's give 'em some analog hell." The ship roared, systems flaring, light bent inward. Time folded once. Then they vanished. Then the jump was not a clean cut. It was a tear. Luke felt himself stretch, collapse, and reassemble all in the same breath. No tunnel of stars, no Hollywood flash. Just silence, then impact. They dropped into darkness. The ship groaned, its patched core flickering as stabilizers kicked in. Luke's vision cleared just in time to see what looked like a rusted launch silo around them. Concrete walls, cold steel. A red exit sign buzzed in the dark. "Where the hell are we?" Kalari tapped the display. "We landed, sometime around your year 1982. United States, military facility." Luke squinted. "Wait, I know this place. I was a kid. My uncle worked at this base before it shut down. She frowned. Coincidence? Luke chuckled dryly. With my luck. Never. They exited the ship cautiously. The air was heavy with oil and dust. Shelves full of analog equipment lined the walls. Radar screens, tape reels, beige terminals humming faintly, despite decades of abandonment. Kailari placed a hand on one terminal. It responded, flickering to life. This system is compatible, she said. We can boost the jump range using their grid. Luke smirked. So we're jacking into Cold War tech to escape space-time bounty hunters. Got it. But their time was short. A low vibration rippled through the air. Not sound, but pressure. Kailari stiffened. They followed. How? They locked onto the energy residue. Each jump leaves a footprint. Luke ran to the back wall. Then we need this rig up now. They worked fast. Luke rerouted power from an old generator using extension cords and half-melted switches. Kailari jury-rigged the signal processor, fingers moving like lightning. Tell me what you took, he asked. She hesitated. A chronoseed, a code fragment that teaches free will to synthetic timelines. He blinked. Like sentience? Like revolution. Luke gave a low whistle. No wonder they're pissed. A sudden crack, sharp and close. The air rippled. From the shadows stepped three figures, cloaked in distortion. Human-shaped, but wrong. Their armor shimmered like obsidian and glass. Their eyes glowed faint blue. Stay back, Kailari warned. They didn't speak. One raised its hand, and time stuttered. The terminal Luke had just wired unplugged itself, wires reeling back. His coffee mug shattered in reverse. Damn it, he shouted. They're warping local causality. Kailari tossed him a glowing rod. Temporal anchor. Use it. Luke slammed it into the ground. Time stabilized in a 10-foot radius. Buy me 60 seconds, she said. Luke didn't hesitate. He charged forward with nothing but a wrench in one hand and old fury in his gut. One hunter lunged, faster than gravity, but Luke ducked, rolling past and smashing the anchor point on its back. Sparks exploded. Another raised its hand, too late. Luke hurled the wrench. It struck the helmet with a satisfying crunch. Old tools, still useful. Behind him, Kailari finished the jump sequence. The walls shook. Lights burst. Luke, now! He turned and ran, leaping into the craft as she slammed the hatch shut. The regulators screamed outside, not in pain, but in anger. Reality tore again. The ship vanished in a pulse of light and steel. When Luke opened his eyes, he saw stars. Real ones, not distorted, not broken. We made it? He asked. Kailari nodded, exhausted. For now, we're outside their trace range. He leaned back in the chair, heart pounding. So, what now? She looked at him, eyes ancient, voice quiet. Now we decide what kind of future gets to exist. The stars hung silent outside the viewport. No pursuit, no signals, just dark matter, ancient light, and the low hum of a patched-together ship still running on duct tape and faith. Luke sat on the floor, back against the wall, fingers still greasy. Kailari stood at the control panel, gaze fixed on the navigation data. We're out of their range, she said softly. They won't follow us here. Too far outside time. He looked up. So, what is this place? She turned. A pocket timeline. It was a failed experiment, abandoned by the regulators. We're safe here, forgotten. Luke raised an eyebrow. You sure know how to pick a vacation spot. Kailari almost smiled. Almost. The ship drifted near a broken station, massive, silent, orbiting a pale white dwarf. It was long dead but stable, like the ghost of a future that never came. Kailari guided the craft toward it. We can rebuild here, she said. This place, it can host a network, a new seed. Luke stood. That code you stole, the chrono seed, you're gonna plant it here? Kalari nodded. Yes, let it grow, away from control, from regulation. A future born from freedom. Luke looked out at the station. Fractured domes, bent steel, broken lights. And you need me for that? You understand repair, restoration. You remember how to build from scrap. Most forget. He paused, then shrugged. Well, I do have a hell of a collection of spare parts. They docked in silence. The station creaked as they entered, lights blinking awake like old eyes. Dust floated in low gravity. Empty halls stretched out, waiting. Over the next days, they worked side by side. Kalari built the core, a seed system designed to grow thought, not just process. Luke laid wiring, stabilized old fusion lines, patched hulls using tools made for carburetors and spark plugs. He found an old coffee maker on the station, fixed it. First good coffee in 3 days. You humans and caffeine, Kalari said. Non-negotiable, he muttered, sipping. Each night they talked, about Earth, about her people, about time. Luke told stories from his Navy days, from dusty road trips in muscle cars, from bar fights and jukeboxes. Kalari listened with a curiosity that wasn't artificial. I never understood your kind, she said one evening, seated beside him near a flickering console. We don't always understand ourselves, Luke answered. She looked at him. But you adapt. When time broke around you, you didn't freeze. You fixed it. He glanced at her. It's what I do. The day the chronoseed came online, the station changed. Lights warmed. Power flowed evenly. Gravity stabilized. A low thrum filled the structure, not mechanical, not digital, something in between, alive. Kalari watched the readings, then turned to him. It worked. Luke stepped beside her. You sure? She nodded. It's thinking, slowly, but real. The first free timeline. Luke ran a hand through his hair. So what now? Just let it grow? No, we teach it. She looked at him, not like a superior or a stranger, like a partner. You're the example. He blinked. I'm just a mechanic. You're a human, she said. You fixed what was broken, without asking what it cost. You gave up safety for someone you didn't know. Luke looked out the viewport. Stars, drifting. Well, he said, someone's got to tighten the bolts on the future. Years passed, slowly, gently. They built, not cities, not armies, ideas. Luke taught the seed systems how to repair, how to adapt. He told it about engines and families, about Elvis and heartbreak and transistor radios. One day, the chronoseed reached out, not with words, but through shapes, images, concepts, a spark of will. And in the quiet after, when Kalari finally smiled, not because she had to, but because she meant it, Luke realized something. They hadn't just escaped. They'd built a future no one had written. A future that remembered where it came from, with grease under its nails, and hope in its chest.